the single greatest determining factor of your life. What is the purpose of conscience? We're going to dig and dig until we find out what it is that determines our life. Today I want to talk about the single greatest determining factor of your life. We're going to dig and dig until we find out what it is that determines our life. But in order to do that, I have to introduce you to the fact that you've been fearfully and wonderfully made by God. The first thing that we need to know is that God created us with an intellect. The purpose of your intellect is to gather information and retain information. But above your intellect sits what is known as your reasoning faculty. The purpose of reasoning is to deliberate with all the information that we've received and retained through our intellect. But above our reasoning, there sits what is known as our conscience, with science. Conscience, in other words, with knowledge. Conscience is that part of you that knows everything about you, all your desires, all your motives, and everything you have ever done, everything you've left undone. And it compares what you have done to the highest level of truth it's ever been exposed to. We're going to talk more about that in a second. The Hebrew word for conscience is the word L-E-B, leb. But that word right there, leb, is directly translated into English as heart. So when we go through scriptures, we see this word conscience translated as heart. For instance, in Exodus 8 verse 15, we see how Pharaoh, the Bible says, Pharaoh hardened his heart. In other words, he steeled his conscience against the truth of God. We also see David in Psalm 51 verse 10, where he actually prayed and he asked God for a clean heart. In other words, he was begging God for a clear conscience. In Proverbs 4 verse 23, I want to read it out of the New Living Translation. It's very clear. It says, guard your heart, in other words, your conscience, above all else. Let me just pause there for a second. He's basically telling us, as Christians, that our highest responsibility is to actually guard our conscience. Guard it. Protect it. Why? For it, your conscience, determines the course of your life. It determines the course of your life. Another translation says, guard your heart, for out of it springs everything about life. So it's very important for us to understand that our conscience needs to be guarded. Let's ask the question, what is the purpose of conscience? J.I. Packer made this statement. He says, an educated and pure conscience is God's monitor. God allows us to be monitored by this faculty that He's given us called conscience, but it is our responsibility to guard that conscience. Why? Because our conscience is like our internal police officer. It kind of like monitors us. It accuses us or defends us based on the highest level of truth it has ever been exposed to. Let me say that again. Your conscience either accuses you or defends you compared to the highest levels of truth it has ever been exposed to. Now, our time for this video is up, but I really would love for you to watch next week's video as it comes out, because I want to show you how to educate and strengthen a conscience and how to live with a clear conscience instead of a defiled one. Or in fact, if you have a conscience that's guilty, defiled, and burdened, how can you cleanse it and how can you strengthen it? So please make sure to check in again next week.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and would like to receive more of the same, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you're watching us on Facebook, remember to like and follow our page.